Welcome to Behind the Scenes. I am your host, Hector Montalvo. This show is dedicated to asking tough questions for you, the viewers. We bring you their responses, and we let you decide. Joining us here today at our MCTV studios, we are joined by no other than Rumbo, Dalia Diaz, and Richard Ibar. Welcome to the show.
What am I getting into? Tough questions?
Thank you for having us.
You know, Rumbo provides the Merrimack Valley and their residents with free newspaper information. With the economy the way it is and the high cost of doing business in the Commonwealth, how do you do it and why do you do it?
Oh, why do we do it? We have a passion for that. We certainly don't do it for the money. We do have a passion. We started that way. Actually, this is May. We're celebrating our 16th anniversary.
That's right.
What a good way to celebrate.
Happy anniversary. 16 years of providing the residents of the Merrimack Valley with news information, with coverage of going on in their cities and towns.
Yeah, and then we started, my husband and I, he's out delivering right now, doing the distribution, because we saw the need. At the time, there were no Spanish language newspapers in the city of Lawrence particularly, and we thought that there was a need for one. And today there are several others, but none dedicated to the local news. Anybody today can publish a newspaper, picking up from the internet national and international news, and which is fine for those people who are interested in that. From the very beginning, we wanted to make it a local newspaper with local issues. And by the way, for 16 years, we have been looking for someone to write about local sports. And we haven't had any luck. Everybody wants to write about the Celtics and the Red Sox. We don't want that. You want that information, you get it someplace else. We want to be able to showcase all the values that we have in this community. And we have gotten to be known for that, for being so local.
Right. And I understand that Rumbo is not big as far as employees is concerned, correct? I mean, is it something that is big, or is it something that's just a small group of people
You're
involved?
looking at 2/3 of the staff.
Really?
My husband, who's out delivering papers now, and Richard and me.
But the key is that we accept contributions for everyone in the community. So contributors are a big key. We have local contributors, every city, and we give a voice to those that may not necessarily have a journalist degree or anything in that end. We have students, we have local nonprofits who would just like to share, and we're very accessible in that aspect.
Now, you've covered a lot, you're celebrating 16 years, and you've covered a lot of different stories. Is there any story that sticks out to you that made Rumbo more famous for what it is?
Anything in particular?
Well, I think one of the things that we have distinguished ourselves, along with local community access, has been local elections, in which in the past it has been wait for later. And I think Dalia's initiative has always been, not only we've been there live recording and sort of stamping those times, and we've seen the transition in the community. Remember, Rumbo there was the Spanish newspaper of the Merrimack Valley from the beginning. The community has changed in the last 16 years. It's now bilingual, and we make a big effort to have everything in both languages and to be able to bring the local news to everybody. And I would say local elections we've had a different flavor since we started to cover those events, and being a communication mechanism for politicians to let us know what they want to do and what they have done in the past.
Now, speaking of elections, we have in the city of Florence, there was a newly elected mayor by Mayor Lantigua, and that's been covered heavily with other media outlets and so on. How do you see the city of Lawrence operating under the new mayor right now as far as Rumbo is concerned?
If you ask, our audience is very different from the other local traditional newspapers. And it is reflected in the way people feel and the behavior. I think that if Lantigua went to elections tomorrow, he would win all over again. Not only because Latinos have the pride that for the first time we have a Latino mayor, but because most people feel that his hands are tied, that he encountered an awful lot of problems, and he's doing his best. A year and 3 or 4 months is not enough to really make an impact. Some people want the streets all fixed right now. Why not? Some people say, he borrowed $30 million. Where are they? What did he do with that money? Some people don't understand what a deficit means. So it's really interesting because by following Rumbo, you get the pulse of the community. I remember years ago, people rejected the paper. We would go into a public place and people would say, I don't read Spanish, without realizing that the paper was already bilingual. And it was that rejection that we had to put up with, which is okay. After a few years, those same people ran for office and they came to us for advertising, and we have been able to prove to them that we're there to contribute, not to break barriers, not to, if anything, the barrier of that ignorance is the only one that we would like to break. And by being bilingual, we have a big following among the English-speaking community. We have been able to show them our values and our contributions, which otherwise they never would have known.
Now, as far as the election, you also cover city councilors and mayor races and you know, whoever else is running for their
committee as much as we can. Yes.
So you do. So that comes in Spanish and also in English.
Always, yeah.
Nice, nice. Now, how long have you been with Rumbo?
About 8 years now. I think something to that effect.
We got together on the radio, and we hit it off so well, participating on somebody else's radio show on a regular basis. And I couldn't understand how me at my age could get along with this kid so well. And from there, he just came and took part of the newspaper. He's the website designer. He's the newspaper graphic arts designer. He writes, he takes pictures. What else do you do?
I bring water to the office.
Yes.
No, but let me tell you that what happened with us then, we were doing a show in Spanish. And we realized, and we had discussions, that our show, what we were saying, in some instances, was mainstream in English. But it was brand new, and folks were impressed. And we thought that we were tired. Of course, we know that. We know all these facts. And Alberto came up with the name Crossover when we decided to launch a show that would be both in English and Spanish and do exactly what the newspaper does, which is bring both audiences and break that barrier of the language. Let's bring the same local information to everybody. And to this point, we've done the show for about 10 years now. I started working at the paper something about 8. But I'm still amazed as how different the audiences are, the interest, the priority, and we continue to be divided by language, but not because we don't try, but we continue to inform.
I have been saying that for years. Lawrence is a city divided by language. We have 2 shows. On Wednesdays at 11, we do the show on CCM. And then on Saturdays at 11 again, we do it in Spanish on CCM. And we have 2 different audiences, 2 different sets of problems, concerns. It's amazing that we can be in 2 waters like that. And what we do is try to bring to that audience on Saturday the concerns of the people who call in. People have called our radio show on Wednesday with racist comments. They don't realize that because we're just speaking English, we are Latinos. I don't know, but they let it all out. And in the meantime, on Saturday, we hear comments that we wish we could shut them off.
Similarly, on the other end, and the conversation is very different in terms of priorities. And we're able to see and bring that information in the paper as well when it comes to the needs of the community. And you look at candidates in the most recent election, you have candidates, let's call it traditional candidate, Mount Vernon resident that grew up in Lawrence, to now you have the new immigrant who has achieved, people know him in the community now for different purposes, and you sort of see the struggle, the community maturing. And your earlier question about how he's doing, I think he's giving us all a class in politics and maturing in the community. Whether he's managing well or not, we don't know yet. But I think the community is maturing. We're seeing our kids losing the Spanish. We're seeing the integration, the second generation coming along. We're seeing young politicians coming along where Spanish is not the key, it's communication the key. And we're seeing for the first time the ability to tell people exactly the numbers without needing a translator. And that's maturity.
Now, a lot of the Boston media outlets and some of the local media outlets here have portrayed the mayor as someone that not everyone is happy with. Is there anything good that you have seen as far as reporting and so on, and as far as being open and transparent with the media, that Mayor Lantigua has done for the city of Lawrence and the residents?
In terms of good? Well, I think he's taken a lot of measures, but good is, I think it's subjective. I think you would say to the residents, I'll give you one example in which there were police cars. The police were able to take, police officers were able to take cars home, and every expense associated with those vehicles. Living in Lawrence before, I never got a bill for those cars. However, there's a perception that, yes, now that doesn't happen, it's saving the city money. Unfortunately, the way that his administration is seen, with the words that attract audiences and help sell newspaper, you see the word bailout a lot in the city of Lawrence, which is wrong. It was always a loan, but it continues to be portrayed as such, as a bailout. The number is still used wrong. It's not 35 million. It's up to 35 million, and so far it's been 27, and 24 of which were from 2 previous fiscal years. So a lot of it is perception. I think you do the show for the people. The people want to be protected. Sometimes the media wants to overprotect, and unfortunately, in many cases, they don't know the dynamics of our community, and they misinform just because they don't know the little things.
He recently issued a list of accomplishments, and it's a very long list. That was only one of the examples. You haven't seen that in the media. People don't want to hear that. And you will always find in any type of government, at any level, people against and people in favor. And it is a shame that the mainstream media is catering to the people against. Let's start looking into it. Let's look at that list and see if there is any truth to that he really accomplished those things. I have seen changes with the hiring of more Latinos. The other day somebody said, because somebody's suing the city, an employee is suing the city because in order to get a job in the city you have to be a Latino. Well, I looked into that. Only 20% of the city employees are Latinos, and the population is now 74%. So there is a big disparity right there. Yes, he has been hiring some Latinos. I don't agree with some of those appointments because they are obviously political appointments, but that's bound to happen in any type of government at any level. But it isn't true that in order to get a job in the city you have to be a Latino. And he pointed out at a press conference the other day many different appointments that he has made that are not necessarily Hispanics.
Now, he walked into a situation that he did not create, and it's become a difficult situation for him to fix.
And he had no idea that it was so bad.
What do you think needs to be done in order for him to maintain a good reputation, to get his good name back, and basically show the people, both sides, that he is actually doing something for the people?
It is going to be very difficult while all this commotion is going on, because everybody's attention is on that. I think that the best thing that could happen to him is an investigation, which, by the way, I have no proof. I haven't seen anything that it is ongoing.
I think you're trying to say an audit.
No, an investigation.
Well, investigation sounds bad.
Huh?
You want to say an audit. Financial audit. If his numbers are good.
No, because the audit will be only financial. And the investigation will deal with nepotism, money laundering, guns, drugs, all the accusations that the mainstream media has made. Based on what? Who told them? Oh, officials in the city. What officials? It's just rumors.
Except that being innocent in all those doesn't make him a good mayor.
Be nice. We are in MCTV. Don't argue with me today.
Okay. It doesn't make him a good mayor. The best thing he could do is show the numbers. And I think the numbers are out now for the first year.
Yes, and the best thing that happened to him is to have Bob Nunes, the overseer, because he's representing the state's interest. Mm-hmm. And it isn't just La Antigua's word anymore, it's Mr. Nunes. But if there is really an investigation going on, okay, let's get it over with. And then people will find out if there is any truth to that or not. I haven't seen, for example, 3 recent investigations. The IT department, $9.2 million that were stolen. And they came, they took out computers and documents and all kinds of paperwork, and people were fired. And the raid at the library. And as a result of that, there is an investigation going on, and those people are going to be brought to trial. Eventually, you know how slowly the wheels of justice turn. Another one was the Lavoie case. They raided his office, then they went and raided his house, took out computers, documents, took pictures of his entire house, and the investigation is ongoing, and one of these days it will be going on trial. And the most recent one was a community action. They came in 2 days, a group of about 30 people, and interviewed all the administrators, department heads, took out computers, evidence, agendas, meetings, evaluations, contracts. They took copies of everything in 2 days. They did all that. And then they follow up in a month with the results of the investigation.
It's myself or whether it's government in general, they tend not to reveal that they are actually doing an investigation. So
you know something? I went to the FBI Citizens Academy, and I also belong to the Multicultural Committee of the FBI. We have quarterly meetings. Last month we had a meeting, and at the end I asked the director, I mean, how much higher can you go, but the director of the FBI? And I asked him, can you tell me if there is an investigation going on in Lawrence? And he just looked at me and said, Dalia, you know that we cannot confirm nor deny, because if there was an investigation going on, it would be jeopardized by the comments. And that's exactly what they always tell everyone. And even the newspaper said it like that they contacted the FBI and the district attorney's office, and that was the answer that they got. So there is no proof that there is an investigation going on.
What these news is doing, however, is putting a lot of political pressure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If it had been at a time in which the governor was trying to get reelected, I think things would be very, very different. Because I know this, as Dalia said, that the state government is involved in the finances aspect of things. Very recently, Bob Nunes, who is in charge of overseeing the financials of the city, wrote a column to the local papers. We published it as well. They said, unfortunately, you did not cover this the right way. Look at Lawrence going in the right financial track. That doesn't sell, unfortunately. So to do a good job, I hope he doesn't get an investigation, because that's going to be a whole circus. And politically, that's not a good...
It will put an end to everything.
No, I think we'll put a cloud over it, but we'll discuss that later.
And if he's doing something wrong, let's get him out of there.
Well, but
that will be the end of it.
If he puts the numbers right, if they're available to everybody, if everybody can see, everybody thinks they support Lawrence. Every state resident, they have the understanding that they're the one funding Lawrence. Mm-hmm. And get used to it, because Lawrence cannot support itself under the current structure. 7 square miles, under the current tax and what's going on with the economy, Lawrence will not be self-sufficient for a while now. They cannot charge the taxes to pay for their services. They continue to increase. And dealing with unions and contracts, and you have to honor the contracts that were done in the past, regardless whether you like the previous mayor or not. You have to honor all those things. And it's very hard, step by step. Get used to helping a community through state aid, because they're not going to be self-sufficient like other communities are.
But if Lawrence is hurting financially and it's supported by the rest of the Commonwealth communities, cities, and towns, and in Massachusetts it's a work-at-will state. Basically, you can come into work and an employer can let you go at any given point without needing an excuse. Why couldn't that be done with the contracts that have been put in place under the current financial situation that Lawrence faces?
That's part of the problem, is that that's not how it's been done. If you look at the last 2 years, and this has nothing to, this is not an opinion on unions, but those contracts that were signed without the money in the bank or the projections for the money to come in the bank. That's where the 24 million or 27 or 35, any number you want to use, that's where that money is needed to cover previous financial agreements that you could not afford.
Now, we've seen that in Boston and Beacon Hill, the House just passed they voted overwhelmingly to take away the bargaining agreements from the unions. How is that going to play a part in Lawrence now, where some of the reports have been that this is a battle between the unions and Mayor Lantigua?
Well, many of the contracts in the city of Lawrence have already expired. They are working without a contract, and the unions have reason to be afraid with that new rule being passed. But the unions have always been very strong. One of the very important points, there was sort of, the middle paragraph of when the governor appointed Bob Nunes as the financial overseer, was that the state's union negotiators were going to be part of this administration's team to negotiate. So you're going to have the state power to negotiate with the city unions. I think that somewhat got lost in between, but that's part of the reason. That's why it's happening, and that's why with all this news and all these circuses going on, you're not seeing a huge reaction from the governor's office, because it is a tough task, and part of it is breaking those contracts. A key contract on that was the health insurance. Lawrence was self-insured, and communities use the GIC now, is that what it's called? And according to the financial report, it's been a success so far in 1 year, although there was a lot of opposition with it. But Lawrence could not afford its own health insurance plan that they had. So changes like that, little by little, you need the time to see to see the effects. And that's the thing. He's been there for a little over a year. He had a hot potato when he came in, and first he had to solve the problems of the past before he can start solving the problems of the present. And people are getting desperate sometimes.
And if there is an ongoing investigation, one would think that they would even have to go and look into the governor, because the money is being overseen by the state. So I mean, it's going to be an interesting thing. Now, one of the other things that was interesting that was recently published in one of the local newspapers was about an accident that the mayor supposedly had been in. In one report, you say it stated that the mayor was hit from behind. Some other report says that he hit the person from behind, and his bumper was dragging along. The other car's bumper was dragging along.
I haven't
on the
seen that
vehicle.
one, that he was hit from behind. He was the one who did the hitting.
He was the one that did the actual hitting. Okay, because I believe Mass TV had a story on there that was basically talking about that particular situation, and the mayor had clarified that he was the one that was hit from behind.
I don't mean to defend him in any way, but if I was going through what he has been going through, I would be hitting cars left and right. He has a lot in his mind.
let me tell you, that's what doesn't help him, because he's been in situations such as those. Because what happened afterwards is what's really concerning. The person took off, and he did not what would you do? You would call 911. He didn't. He called a particular officer, and when the person was leaving the scene, he followed that person. There are many things that you should be able to know to do as a citizen, and he should understand. In many cases, he has behaved as if he's higher than the law. And that perception, that arrogance that he portrays, doesn't help him at all with all this situation.
What do you say? I mean, he should have called 911 and there would have been a document on record, tape, and so on. But what do you say to those people that would argue that sometimes the police don't even use their police radios where you can have a copy of that recording? They're actually using Nextels to be able to transmit their investigations, their traffic and stops and so on. Should that be happening in the city of Lawrence? Should he take a stronger stand on that and require all public safety to use public radios so there's a record of all calls coming in and out of those things?
It should be common sense. I mean, if I call 911, it should be done the proper way. In fact, I think when you dial 911, the state police answers and you say which city you're going to and what you're doing. So the point is that when you mix allegations with other things that are true, you tend to think that certain things will be true also, when you believe the allegations very easily. So he has not helped himself the way he has behaved.
And again, going to the clubs at night, he always said, I am not going to change just because I'm the mayor now. He was always going to different clubs and he thought that he could continue doing that. Now it backfired and he knows that he cannot continue that lifestyle.
I'd like to remind the viewers you are watching Behind the Scenes. I am your host, Hector Montalvo. We are joined in studio with Rumbo newspaper, Dalia Diaz and Richard Baez. If you have a question that you want us to ask your government or legal representation, send us an email at thehectormontalvoshow@yahoo.com. Visit our website at behindthescenes.weebly.com or find us on Facebook /BehindTheScenes with Hector Montalvo. Dalia, we have 2 minutes left. 16 years of providing free information to the public, you know, with the economy being the way it is. Has there things changed? Have you seen how stories change in those 16 years?
The Spanish-speaking community is seen in a much better light today. I like to think that I had something to do with it, but it is true that now people regard the Hispanic community, particularly in Lawrence, different. We're struggling.
We are. And Richard, really quick, we have less than a minute left. I just wanted to find out, people don't just pick up the local newspaper in their local stores and so on. They can also read it online as well?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
And we have a log, an archive of almost 9 years. Since 2001, we have several issues there. They're available in PDF format at rumbonews.com.
Rumbonews.com.
If you want to look up anything, just go on our website and...
Well, we appreciate you guys coming in and sharing 16 years of Rumbo providing service to the community. Thank you for coming in. I want to thank the crew at MCTV, the staff at MCTV, and thank you at home for watching. Join us next time as we go behind the scenes to ask the tough questions, bring you their responses. We let you decide.
Thank you so much.